Hey, kia ora. Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Surprise in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic, sparkling day. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 1775. Woohoo. Getting closer and closer. Around the World in 80 Days from 1956. That's what we're talking about tonight. So we watched that last night. But today we got an early start today. We went out and had our walk early, came back because I wanted to get back early because my front yard needed weeding and mowing and trimming. So we got out there. I got it all done in like 90 minutes, I think it took me. And all the weed. And so I got rid of, pulled some weeds. Some weren't being very cooperative, but they all got sprayed at the end anyway. So we pulled weeds, did the trimming, did the mowing, blew everything around. Got to keep the footpath clear, and the only one I was not dealing with that with a broom. And then sprayed all the weeds, and it took about 90 minutes, but it got done. Yay! This is one of those things that you have to do. And then just had a busy day with doing, and then the rest of it, and came in, had breakfast, and then had a busy day getting stuff done for clients and that sort of thing as well. But last night we watched Around the World in 80 Days from 1956 with David Niven. This is one that I've seen a few times before. Absolutely love it. And then thinking about, but the thing that interested me the most on this movie is that I had totally forgotten that this movie has no open credits. So you don't see the word come up. You don't see that it's Around the World in 80 Days come up. None of that. No, who's starring it, who's producing it. None of that comes up. And I thought, well, this is kind of interesting. But what they started off with is a little square in the middle of the screen. And this guy comes on. I've got no idea who he is. And starts talking about Jules Verne and his story Around the World in 80 Days, about the book. And about how in the late 1800s, they were talking, no, turn of the century. So around the 1900s, they were talking about space exploration and that sort of stuff. And they had they did this 35 millimeter film thingy on it with, all these people running around and like they were in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and building rockets and sending it off to the moon and, landing on the moon and all this sort of stuff. And it was actually kind of interesting watching all of that. And then from there, they took you into straight, and then they went back to the guy, spoke to him, and then he talked about the movie, talked about the book, and then we went into the movie. I'm just doing a quick search. So Around the World in 80 Days was first published in 1873. So that gives you some idea. This book came out in 1873. And even in the book, they talk about how, the whole thing is about David Niven's character, Phileas Fogg, going around the world in 80 days because, these trains have come out, these steam trains have come out, they're making things move faster. And, and he said, and one of the quotes from the movie is something like, about, how they could go around the world in 80 days, but it won't be long before they'll be able to go around the world in 80 hours. And I thought that was kind of interesting to, such forward thinking from 1870, when this book was written in 1873 through to today, and all the stuff that's taken place since then. But I thought it was kind of interesting that, James Verne, not James Verne, sorry. Jules Verne was talking about this in 1873 when he first wrote the book Around the World in 80 Days. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But like I said, they did this like whole little movie thing at the beginning. It was almost like it was a movie short. It was a short movie that they did at the beginning about about space exploration, and then they went into the movie. And I love this movie. I have seen there's a lot of different versions out there of Around the World in 80 Days. And if you're watching last night, even, Mickey Mouse even has Around the World in 80 Days. The only other one that I have seen is I've seen David Niven and I've seen Pierce Brosnan's version. And Pierce Brosnan's version, I think, came out in the 80s. I think that's when his one was kind of cool. I liked his one. But then I've always liked Pierce Brosnan and whatever he does. So he's just one of those characters that you will. When did he do his one? There was the Jackie Chan one, which I have not seen. I'm just seeing when the other ones came out. Let's see. Oh, Pierce Brosnan's one was 1989. And that one I have seen. So it makes it the original and then one in 1989. But I enjoyed the movie. There's so much that goes on in this. And when this movie was filmed in 1956, they had a hot air balloon that they used to get across the Atlantic because hang on, which were they across the English Channel from England to the continent. They thought they had landed in France and they actually ended up in Spain, and you get to see some of the stuff there in Spain. And I tell you, Passepartout has the best adventures ever in this book, in this movie. Because he's got Phileas Fogg, who is very by the book and by his watch, always living by his watches, carries 2 watches with him, got untold clocks in his house, and is very much not so much spontaneous. Whereas Passepartout, he just goes with the flow. He finds himself very much like thinks of himself as a can't think of the term. He likes his woman. Let's just put it there. He likes his woman. And when you first see him in the movie, he's riding a penny farthing, which is one with the big wheel at the front and the little wheel, and he's like 6 feet off the ground or whatever. But he becomes the valet for Phileas Fogg, and on his first day on the job, they're leaving that evening to go around the world. Well, they can't do it. They go to do something in port, but they can't end up doing it. They end up missing or something. Gosh, that was right back at the beginning of the movie. They end up taking a hot air balloon across to France and end up in Spain, where they get entertained with all the different Spanish dancing that was going on and things like that, and even a bullfight, which Passepartout ends up being a bullfighter in. And Passepartout has a resume that's like this long with all the different varieties of jobs he has had and everything else. And those skills come in handy as they're moving across the continent and going to different places and things like that. In India, they save a woman who met her husband when she was like 7 years old, and then gets married to him later on in life when she became of age. And she had never met him, never seen him. He dies, and because of his status in life, it means that his wife, in the custom, the wife had to be burned with him. They do one of those burial fire things, and she's made to lay down next to her husband on top of the pile of wood that they're about to set on fire. And so they rescue her from that. And so she becomes a traveling companion with them. And then you've got the agent that goes with them, who seems to think that Phileas Fogg is responsible for stealing $55,000 from the Bank of England. And so he's following him, and he's trying to trip everybody up, trying to make the delay. So that, one, he's investigating Phileas Fogg, and number 2, he is trying to make sure that his mates back at the gentleman's club, what was it called again? Can't remember what the name of the club was called. It began with an R. It was just one word. That they won their bet because they had a bet against Phileas Fogg that Phileas Fogg could not make it around the world in 80 days. And he turns up, and everybody knows the story. He turns up on time, and he gets arrested. They end up, Passepartout and Phileas Fogg end up getting separated because one ends up on the boat he's supposed to be on. One misses the boat because he didn't know it was leaving early. And there's all sorts of stuff that goes on. And lots of adventures that they have along the way. And I like this movie because it takes you through different countries, different cultures, so you get to see some of that as well. And just watching some of the adventures that they go through. And there was one point where they're on a train in the States, and they're going from San Francisco to New York City. To New York City, and they come across this bridge, and like the train's stopping like every 5 minutes. It seems like. First, there's the Indians. The Indians don't attack them because these were peaceful Indians, and they go, well, how do you know that they're peaceful Indians? He goes, well, they're carrying peace pipes, and so they stop So the train stopped, and they all smoke a peace pipe with the Indians, and then they get back on the train, and then the train stops again because there is now this bridge, and they're not sure if the bridge can take the weight of the train. So one of the Americans says, "Well, let's just back it up, and let's just floor it and go 30 miles an hour across this bridge, and we'll be fine." And so they do that, and because of the speed that they're going, because if they did the normal slower speed, the weight would definitely impact the bridge. But as it is, they get past the weak link on the bridge before it starts collapsing behind them. And then they get attacked by Indians. Well, these were not peaceful ones because they were not carrying the peace pipes. And but what was really funny, I had to laugh at this one. So Passepartout somehow ends up in this Western outfit with this big 10-gallon Stetson on his head. I don't know. And he's got the cross, the gun belts that go across the body, so you can see all the bullets on either side. And he's up on top of the train heading towards the engine area because the train's running away, which means the Indians may have killed or disabled the engineers in some way. And he's up there on top of this train. This arrow comes up and bounces off his head. I just started laughing. So there was all these little movie faux pas along the way that you get to see, which kind of made it kind of entertaining when you were watching, if you were paying attention and you're watching. But it was just funny how this arrow comes up and just bounces off his hat. Sorry, off his Stetson. Oh, it was a Stetson, but bounced off his hat, and I just started laughing. But it was a really good movie, and thoroughly enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed that movie whenever I watch it. And tonight, so that was last night's. So tonight we're going to be watching Mr. Smith Goes to Washington from 1939. It's a smidgen under 2 hours, I believe. I'm going to bring up it closed. Look, I think it's a smidgen under 2 hours, if I remember correctly. Oh no, it's 2 hours and 9 minutes. But this has James Stewart and Jean Arthur in it, and it is about a guy, it's kind of it's been a long time since I have seen it. So I will tell you that I have seen it once before, but it has been a long time since I last saw it. But I remember it being humorous, and it's about this young, what is he? It's like I think it's Boy Scouts or Cubs or something like that. It's some sort of, it's something like Boy Scouts. It's not Boy Scouts. It's something else. That's something like Boy Scouts that he's in charge of. And he has all of these different ideas and things like that. And then he gets appointed to Washington, D.C. by the governor of his state. And he gets to meet up with his mentor, the politician that he kind of idolizes, I guess, and discover his childhood hero and things like that, and discovers that he ain't what he seems to be. So he gets very disillusioned. And I just remember that he ends up standing on the floor of is it the Senate or the House of Commons? The other one. It's in one of them. I can't remember which one, that he ends up standing on the floor and basically just talking for hours. And he refuses to concede. Yeah, refuses to concede to anybody else. He's got his time, and basically he just takes up his time. And I can't remember the reason why. It's been a long time since I have seen it. I just remember that there's some good funny moments in there, and so I'm looking forward to seeing that again tonight. And so that was from 1939. So I think this is one of because Gone with the Wind was around that time too. Gone with the Wind was 1939 as well. These are the only two movies that I have on my list that were from the 1930s. I know there's other movies out there, but those are just the ones that happen to appear on my list. And we do not have a movie tomorrow night, because tomorrow night I will be on later tomorrow night. I'll be on at 8 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow night, simply because I have a speed networking thing to go to, and they're starting it at 6 o'clock, and it goes to 8 o'clock. And then and Zeffie and I will be going for our walk at 5:30, come back, do the speed networking, and then do the podcast. And that's us done for the night. So we will not be watching a movie, because I have to start watching the movies between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. So if I get to 8 o'clock, after 8 o'clock, it gets too late to watch movies. I start falling asleep. So yeah, we won't be doing any movies tomorrow night. So that's a night off. That's one of the 4 nights off. So yeah, so tonight we'll be doing Around the World, and no, we're doing, what did I say? Mr. Smith Goes to Washington from 1939. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Like I said, it's been a while since I've seen it, and there's just little bits of things that that I remember from when I last saw it. So with that, we are out of here. If you have seen Around the World in 80 Days with David Niven, please put in the comments what your favorite parts were. If you've seen any of the other versions of Around the World in 80 Days, like with Jackie Chan or with Pierce Brosnan or David Tennant, yeah, him. I'm just trying to think of his name. I know he played Doctor Who. He was one of the later doctors. David Tennant, I think it is, or any of the other versions that are out there, then just drop in the comment which version you've seen and what your favorite scene was from it, because I'd like to, I want to go see the Jackie Chan one. I want to see the David Tennant one, and I want to see the Pierce Brosnan one again too, because that was really cool. And so they're going to be coming on later. They're not going to be part of this festival because none of them were filmed before, with the exception of this one. This one came out in 1956. The other ones were all after 1970. And 1969 is out. It's going to be 1969 or earlier to be in the classic movies. So people go, 1969? Yeah, I know. That was 50-something years ago. I know. So, yeah. So that's what we're going to say. Put comments in there. If you have seen Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, then also drop in the comments too what your favorite part of that movie is. And we will catch you guys back here tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. Pacific time. Change for tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Pacific time. So have a super fantastic sparkling evening. Konara.